Hi, I'm Rob and welcome to the Time Traveling Chef, where I'm neither chef nor historian, but I do love food and I want to take a bite out of history. Today we're going back to 1812, where I'm going to try making this American classic, a staple that's in almost every household, except this version might leave you just a little tipsy. Today, we're making This recipe calls for tomatoes, shallots, brandy, mace, allspice, and salt. This is one of the first tomato ketchup recipes that's recorded. Prior to this, ketchup was made from So why the lack of tomatoes in the early recipes? Well, many people thought that tomatoes were poisonous. They were watching royals die after consuming these fruits. But what was really happening is that the wealthy and royals ate off of lead plates, and the acid of the tomato would leach the lead out, thus causing their early deaths. So let's fast forward to 1812 America, where it took a scientist to work on the recipe for a tomato-based ketchup. The notable scientist, physician, and horticulturist James Mease was the man to first publish a tomato-based ketchup recipe. It wasn't just its preservation through the use of brandy that made this recipe stand out, but that it used love apples as its main ingredient. Once thought to be an aphrodisiac, tomatoes were previously referred to as love apples. Mease writes, "Slice the apples thin, and over every layer, sprinkle a little salt. Cover them, and let them lie 24 hours. Then beat them well, and simmer them for half an hour in a bell metal kettle. Then add mace and allspice. When cold, add 2 cloves of raw shallots cut small, and a half a gill of brandy to each bottle, which must be corked tight, and kept in a cool place." We've got a whole bunch of tomatoes we're gonna cut. I'm just gonna get that top piece off and then slice them nice and thin. All right, once I get all of these tomatoes sliced up thin, I'm gonna put them on a metal rack with a tray underneath. I'm gonna salt both sides of the tomatoes, and I'm gonna let them rest for 24 hours. Once the 24 hours is up, in my case, I already did this, I prepped ahead. I feel like a real TV chef right now. You take the salted, slightly dried out tomato slices, and I have the tiniest little mortar here, but I'm gonna mash them all up and get them ready to put into a pot to simmer. So I have 2 cloves of shallots. I'm going to cut them small. We'll add that in once that tomato concoction is cooled down. Alright, so all the tomatoes, mashed them all up, threw them in this pot here. I don't have a bell metal kettle, so this is going to be the closest thing. I'm just letting it simmer for about a half hour or so, and then I'll take it off, let it cool, and continue. Kind of looks and smells like I'm making some sort of pasta sauce, a pomodoro sauce. It doesn't look anything like ketchup. Okay, so we've had this simmering for just about 30 minutes. We're gonna take this off the stove and let it cool. Okay, let's get this to cool down. So, this is still hot. I'm gonna add in the allspice and the mace. I'm choosing to do just under a teaspoon of allspice and about a half teaspoon of mace. and I couldn't find any exact measurements with this recipe, so I'm kind of going by taste. But again, it's gonna be one taste test at the end, so we'll see how it is. All right. Now that it's cool, it's time to add the shallots. It's already looking good. But I realize it looks really good because it looks like salsa. And I love salsa. Right. It's the best part. Adding the brandy. So, from what I researched, a gill is a quarter of a pint. So a half gill is an eighth of a pint. That's about 2 ounces, or that is 2 ounces. A shot glass, I believe, is close to 2 ounces. I don't think I really made as much of this as Mease did, so I'm just gonna do a shot glass. And if it's a little bit more, flash. And what a better way to try this out than with my daughter's chicken tenders. All right, time for the taste test. Looks a little bit more like a tomato relish than ketchup, but hey, 1812, it's the first go at tomato ketchup. Let's see how this is. It's a little off-putting at first, but it's got a really good flavor after a few seconds with that punch in the beginning of that brandy and the allspice and mace. I think what I'd do differently next time, because there were no measurements with the seasoning, I cut those in half. The brandy, I get it. It's that's kind of a fixed amount. But overall, it's all right. It's like a 3 out of 10, but I don't like regular ketchup anyways.